Ref app.
The Ref Sports Radio Network.
Live from the Buffalo Wild Wings studios, it's time to get locked into the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
Well, I would say we've got a weekend's worth of news to catch up on. Welcome to Locked In, folks. Parker Thune alongside Grayson Singleton. Back together again on the other side of Easter Sunday. You're listening to the Ref Sports Radio Network, the show brought to you today and every day by Dorsey Jones Buick GMC in El Reno. Family owned and operated. Fantastic service advisors out there. Low pressure sales environment. Half price oil changes on Saturdays, and obviously a vast selection of Buicks and GMCs for you to choose from. Make the short trek out to El Reno to do business with Dorsey Jones Buick GMC. Grayson Singleton, we have officially come full circle in the span of little more than 48 hours on the whole David Stone thing.
That was something.
It was a 360, a complete 360. On Friday, David Stone shocked the world, certainly the Oklahoma football faithful, with the news that he had entered the transfer portal. By Sunday, he had withdrawn from the transfer portal. And I guess that's probably, there's a lot that I want to get to over the course of the next hour, but that's probably the place to start here. Oklahoma avoided disaster because it would have been disastrous if David Stone had left. And to bring it back to a conversation that Steely and I were engaged in during the 12 o'clock hour, it wouldn't have been disastrous in a football sense, Grayson, because you can replace David Stone. You can replace anybody, right? Within reason, you can replace anybody. Oklahoma football would have been fine. Life would have gone on if David Stone had left. Would it have hurt? And would his replacement via the transfer portal, whomever that may be, probably not have been as good as him? Certainly. But Oklahoma football itself would have survived as far as the on-field product. From a PR standpoint, though. From a PR standpoint, I don't really know how you spin it positively if David Stone leaves. The first homegrown five-star recruit since Gerald McCoy almost 20 years ago, and he walks after one season on your campus. Oklahoma had to get things right with David Stone. They had to make things right. They had to ensure by any means necessary that he did not choose to depart via the transfer portal. Disaster averted, I suppose.
That is the most word economically way you could phrase that. It's a disaster avert. I mean, there's no positive way to spin it, especially too when you consider Jim Naggie in his introductory press conference said that we're not going to let our cornerstone players, that might have been a paraphrase, we're not going to let them walk. Mm-hmm. And then the first instance in which you have to get a player on the phone or get him in the office and it ends up with him walking, that would have been problematic, to say the least. But to me, this was all about, from an Oklahoma standpoint, I don't even know if I want to touch the David Stone side of this, because there's just way too much going on that side of things. I mean, you mentioned that, you know, the burden that he's carrying financially for his family, that, like, I don't know. I don't want to get into that because that's people's family business. But as it pertains to Oklahoma on their side of things, this was a complete optics play. You've got Dominic Williams, you have Grayson Halton, you got Jaden Jackson in tow at defensive tackle. You would be fine. You have premier talent at that position outside of David Stone. Plus, you would have been able to get, while not an approximation, a serviceable replacement to him. But if you lost him, try selling that to the fan base. Try selling that to the state of Oklahoma that revolves around this school and this football program. It would have been an unmitigated disaster.
And people have thoughts on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, 405-651-3439. Obviously, there's not as much going on today on the text line as there would have been if we had gone on air and David Stone was still in the transfer portal and there hadn't been a resolution to this whole saga.
Yep.
People would be losing their minds, understandably so. But Recruiting Boomer asked simply, Parker, can you go into a little detail of what it was all about? Well, as with so many of these decisions in the modern college football era, it had to do with money. It mostly had to do with money. And that is not to say, like, let's not get it twisted. David Stone is not money hungry. David Stone is not trying to upgrade from a Mercedes to a Lambo necessarily. But
It's a good way of putting that.
all of these collegiate athletes have different circumstances. They have different backgrounds. They have different family situations. They have different circles. And so, look, I am never going to fault a kid for making a decision that is influenced by money, because you know what? It's your life, and you're entitled to make those decisions. It's your skills, right? Your ability that is driving the financial demand for your services. And so if you want to make that call, so be it. I will never be one of those people that's taken to social media to rake a kid over the coals because he made a decision that was motivated by money. But there was money at the root of the, I don't even know if you really want to call it a standoff, but the tension between David Stone and his camp and Oklahoma had to do with money and some money concerns. It was all smoothed out. And moreover, there were just a lot of very intentional conversations had between members of the Oklahoma staff and roster and David Stone over the 48 hours that he was in the transfer portal about personal mission and relationships and trust and brotherhood and being your own man and seeing things through at the institution that David Stone loves so much. And he does love the University of Oklahoma. That's no secret. He's never made it a secret. So all in all, all's well that ends well. Hopefully, this is just kind of and I know it won't be completely forgotten, but just a footnote in the preliminary chapters of David Stone's legacy at the University of Oklahoma when all is said and done. Sooner Bump on the text line says, happy to see David Stone saying, and I wish fans would realize these are young men with a lot of distractions, and now money is in the mix. We should be doing nothing but wishing them well if they do leave. What would an 18-year-old you or me do? Man, that's so true because, you know, you get people on both sides of the divide. People that call these, well, I call them kids, but they'll call them kids in the most literal sense of the word. You're not grown up at 18, 19 years old. Well, that's halfway true. But on the other hand, you have people that are like, well, they're grown adults. They can make their own decisions. Okay, technically true, but
I mean, you can still be tried as an adult.
Correct. At that age, in that phase of your life, man, you're somewhere in between, right? I know I was, where you don't really feel like a full-fledged adult. A lot of times you don't act like a full-fledged adult, but certainly you're grown up enough to take some initiative and exercise some authority over your own life and your own circumstances. And that, in my mind and in my opinion, is where your circle, the people closest to you, the people in your nucleus, if you will, are the most important in your life. The phase in your life where you have got to lean on those people the most. It's your college years. 18 to 21 or 22, however you want to distinguish it. But that is really where you grow up. It's where so many people grow up. That's where I certainly grew up, is during your college years. That's the transition from childhood/adolescence to adulthood. And so there are things that happen over the course of our collegiate days. We've all lived this experience to a certain extent that, you know, we look back 5, 10 years down the road, even longer, and we're like, wow, that actually happened. I did that, or I participated in that. And you're either kind of embarrassed by it, or you're ashamed of it, or you just think it's hilarious. Not all of us make all of the proper decisions in that phase of our life, and we're prone to make hasty decisions at times. I'm sure if David Stone had to do it all again, he probably wouldn't have entered the transfer portal and given Oklahoma fans a heart attack, a collective heart attack. But what's done is done, and what's important is that he's going to be back in the mix for Oklahoma in 2025.
And you know what? Entering the portal or making a trade demand, if you're in a professional league like the NBA or the NFL, gets everybody to the table. Maybe there were conversations that needed to be had, and they weren't being had at the proper manner or with the proper sense of urgency that they needed to be had.
Correct.
So you go to a drastic measure to do that so we can get everybody to finally sit down so we can hash this out. Based on how this worked out, I really believe this. I don't think he had one intention of leaving. I think it was just a play to get everybody to sit down and have these conversations. You may know better than
spot on.
You may know better than me, Parker, but just from viewing everything that you've put out, that everybody else has put out, and just from what I've gathered from the situation, I just think he's like, hey, what do I got to do to get you guys to where we can work all this out? Oh, let me go give everybody let me go get everybody all worked up on Easter weekend and put the school in a place where they cannot win optically. And then we can hash this out, and I'll be back.
You may very well be spot on. I won't claim that I know everything that has gone on and everything that did go on to lead up to this. I don't know every single detail of the situation, but at this point, I feel like I have a pretty solid grasp of what drove all of it. And I don't think it's a question that David Stone did not want to leave the University of Oklahoma. David Stone's desire is and always has been to be great in the Crimson and Cream. But he's got a family, he's got a circle, he's got circumstances, as we all do. Lost City Sooner says, I heard the NIL deal he was seeking was Brahms for life. Well played, young man. Well played.
Since we're talking about the deal, by the way, Santa John on the text line has just notified us that our names on our YouTube chat are a little bit, they're the same ones from Friday.
Oh, no. Am I Tyler McComas today?
No, you're Grayson Singleton.
Oh, how about that?
I'm Josh Helmer right now.
A case of mistaken identity.
Yeah, we'll get that. We'll get that fixed. Here's what's interesting about this, though, Parker. An incentive-laden contract? That's what came out of this whole thing.
There are some very attainable incentives in David Stone's contract stipulations with Oklahoma from an NIL standpoint. Some very attainable incentives. Yes.
How did that all come about? That's the curious part that I wanted.
That was not a development of the last 72 hours.
Okay.
That's been the case.
Okay.
And Oklahoma would like to make that the case for pretty much everybody on the roster, right? You don't want to have to guarantee a guy a sum of money, an obscene sum of money, as opposed to just, kind of like you would with an NFL contract. An NFL contract that isn't Kirk Cousins or Deshaun Watson's, right?
Right, yeah.
You guarantee him a certain amount of money, but then on top of that, there are some substantial incentives, generally speaking, for performance.
But that's a slippery slope if you want to go down that route, because you're still going to have to guarantee some money.
Yes, no doubt.
And a substantial portion of it as well. Because if you look at how NFL contracts are stacked when it comes to the incentives, it's not like they're making ginormous percentages of their earnings. Some guys, mostly later in their careers, or guys that are being taken a flyer on. But most guys who are going to be your impact guys, those incentives are an extra $500K, an extra 1.2 mil.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go down the thing of David Stone, where most of your money is tied to incentives, you might lose out on highly impactful guys, because they're going to go take more guaranteed money somewhere else.
Chris from Knoxville on the text line says, Jim Naggie made the comment that the Nico situation can't happen here at OU. While the Stone situation itself was not like Nico's, it would have been a WTF moment, especially after Naggie's statement. Yes,
Yeah.
that's definitely true.
True.
However, Jim Naggie just got here, right? So Jim Naggie, it'll be probably 3 years, I would say, until Jim Naggie is able to tailor the roster to his exact desired specifications. And in the meantime, man, he's inheriting a bunch of dudes on this roster that he didn't recruit, that he doesn't have relationships with, that, he's got to get to know them, get to know their situations, their personalities, their circumstances, and you got to make do with what you have. And you'd much rather be making do with what you have with 5-star guys like David Stone and Peyton Bowen and PJ, and
right.
4-star guys like Sammy Omasigo and Jacob Sexton, for instance. Like those types of guys, you can make do with that. If you have a well above average talent pool, as Oklahoma does, you'll be able to figure things out until you get to the point where you can tailor the roster to your exact desired specifications. But that's going to be a process for Jim Naggie. And so, yeah, Jim Naggie can say, well, it can't happen here at OU, certainly, but that's not entirely within his control for the next couple of years, at least. It's partially within his control, but he's also dealing with a lot of inherited talent. It's the same reason, like Brent Venables could have gotten here and preached culture, and he did, right? But if one of the guys that Lincoln Riley recruited got busted with a bag of weed on campus corner or something, well, I guess it would have to be something a little bit more severe than a bag of weed at this point. We do live in 2025, but you get the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can you do about it? You inherited that guy as opposed to pursuing him of your own accord. So
yeah,
there's that element of inheritance is going to affect what Jim Naggie is able to do with this roster and how he structures it over the next 2-3 seasons at least. But certainly I think when you go back to the full context of Jim Naggie's statement, the thing that he did say about the Nico Iamaleava situation is there are red flags all along the way.
Oh, yeah, those
there are
things.
Red flags all along the way.
They don't just manifest themselves immediately.
Uh-huh. And I guess at this point, all you can say about the situation in hindsight is that, yeah, okay, there probably were some red flags. There definitely were some red flags that led up to David Stone's portal entry. But guess what? Smoothed it over, eliminated the issues, came to an agreement with the player, and you would hope and expect you don't have to deal with that again. Which, once you encounter a situation like that, once you inherit a situation like that, that's pretty much all you can do is control what you can control, and Oklahoma was able to do that in this situation with David Stone.
I will say this. I know we got to go real quickly. Two things. I do have to commend Oklahoma ever since Lincoln Riley's strange exit. Oklahoma does a really good job of crisis control.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there was that situation, and then there was this. I mean, crisis control is something this administration is really good at. So I got to give them the props for that. Also, speaking of Lincoln Riley players, you see Seth McGowan is going to Kentucky.
Yeah, how about that? Seth McGowan back in the SEC.
Well, I guess he never was in the SEC.
Yeah. By the way, Trajan Bridges, he's not going to land at Oklahoma, but he's going to land in the P4, I'll tell you that much. There's apparently, from what I've heard last couple days, a school down in the southeast that is very interested in his services. So be interesting to see whether in the next few days we have an announcement that Trajan Bridges, assuming he gets his eligibility reinstated, is transferring to so-and-so P4 school. But
So did he and Seth McGowan come in the same class, or are they?
Seth McGowan was a year behind. He was class of 2020.
Okay.
Bridges was class of 2019. So that lines up such that McGowan doesn't have to appeal for that extra year of eligibility, but
right.
Bridges does. Because McGowan, when he left Oklahoma, he still had all 4 years of eligibility. 2020 didn't count for anyone because of the COVID freeze. Bridges, the season that counted against him when he left Oklahoma was that 2019 season. So he does have to appeal for additional eligibility at this point. But yeah, Seth McGowan's going to be a Kentucky Wildcat after a quick stopover at New Mexico State. All right, folks, much more ahead. A lot to discuss with regard to Oklahoma football recruiting and, of course, the transfer portal. This is The Ref. The Homa Sooner fans, keep it right here. We'll be back with much more. And keep chiming away on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. 405-651-3439. We'll be right back.
Have you or someone you know suffered a loss to your home or business from the recent storms? Before you accept a settlement, call Brown O'Haver at 405-735-5510. Brown O'Haver is a local-based company helping Oklahomans with claims since 1988 with preparation and expert analysis detailing your loss and insurance settlement. As your trusted consultant, Brown O'Haver can give you peace of mind and make sure you're getting what's yours. Call Brown O'Haver today, 405-735-5510, and make sure they're working for you.
Considering refinancing your mortgage? Now might be the perfect time to start planning. With rates on the move, Stride Bank can help you determine if you may be able to lower your monthly payments, shorten your loan term, or tap into your home's equity. Stride's expert mortgage advisors will work with you to tailor a solution that fits your needs. With local roots and national reach, Stride Bank is your go-to partner for all your banking needs. Stride Bank, your trusted financial partner since 1913. Find out more at stridebank.com. Stride Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Make it rain this April at Riverwind Casino.
With big wins and even bigger jackpots. Enjoy the sweet smell of money in the non-smoking oasis.
Get hyped on nearly 3,000 of your favorite electronic games.
Become a legend in the high-stakes lounge.
And get rewarded like the VIP you are when you use your wild card.
Hit nothing but net with the $80,000 Spring Spins and Wins giveaway.
So thunder up and win like a champion, only at Riverwind.
Do you like to stand out in a crowd while wearing the best in OU apparel? The Jimmy Austin Pro Shop carries the best brands you can wear to work or even dress up events. Lines such as Lululemon, Travis Mathew, FootJoy, Greg Norman, Grayson, or Turtleson with the OU and Jimmy Austin logo are sure to catch everyone's eye. You don't have to be a golfer to shop at Jimmy Austin. They also do corporate special orders for you and your company. Call them today, 405-325-6716, or visit theougolfclub.com for more information.
What are you waiting for? If you're anything like me, that question keeps you up at night. So don't wait for someone else's green light. Do the things you love right now at Moore Norman Tech. We'll get you out of the classroom and into the real world with hands-on experience in whatever feeds your fire. So get after it. Oklahoma needs more doers, and doers don't wait. Moore Norman Tech, powered by Oklahoma Career Tech.
Life is yours to spend. Spend it making more money. Spend it making more memories. Spend it learning a new skill. Spend it teaching an old trick. Spend it career climbing. Spend it mountain climbing. First United Bank. Spend life wisely.
At Confidence Ford of Norman, we believe in living up to our name. Our commitment to confidence is in everything we do. Whether you're searching for the perfect vehicle from our extensive selection of new Ford models or pre-owned cars, our dedicated team will help you every step of the way. Because with us, you're family. We're conveniently located at 825 North Interstate Drive. Confidence Ford of Norman, a Cavender Auto family dealership, where confidence is Cavender.
When students struggle because they are hungry
or fall behind because they lack school supplies,
a caring adult can make all the difference.
Especially someone from the community.
Someone who knows the students
and the obstacles they might be facing.
At Communities in Schools, our site coordinators surround students with a community of support
to ensure that they have everything they need to engage in learning.
We go all in for kids, all day, every day.
To learn more, visit communitiesinschools.org.
All right, Grayson, I need some help here. Really need some help with this one. Turning to our resident Oklahoma State expert.
If you're asking me how to pronounce his name, I've got no clue.
Really?
No.
That's exactly what I was about to ask you. They have a redshirt freshman quarterback by the name of, and I'm going to take my absolute best stab here. It's a lot of letters and a lot of syllables.
You're usually good with this thing.
Mayaliuaki Smith?
I think that's what I would have landed on.
Mayaliuaki? That is my best guess. I have no idea whether that is the actual pronunciation or not, but I saw that come across the wire on Twitter, and I was like, holy smokes. Maialiuaki Smith is entering the transfer portal.
Shocker.
He started 2 games for Oklahoma State last year, played in 4 games, and will have 4 seasons of eligibility at his next stop.
And I say shocker, that's not sarcastic either. Like, that was actually a shock.
Oh, really it was?
He was going to be the starter.
Really? Him over the Zane train?
Over Zane Flores?
Yeah.
I imagine Smith would have been the leader for now.
It's Flores, by the way. I know it looks like Flores.
It is Flores. I did know that, yes.
Yes. Gretna, Nebraska's finest.
That explains why you know that.
Yep. Zane Flores. Chris from Knoxville says, McGowan teaming up with Hardley Gilmore at Kentucky. The guy that was asked to leave Kentucky, transferred to Nebraska, got in trouble, was dismissed, and transferred back to Kentucky. LOL. Well, Mark Stoops putting together a motley crew over there.
Hey, man, if you can't beat Georgia, do what Georgia does, I guess.
Speaking of Oklahoma State, and just by coincidence, this is not by design, but it feels like we've talked a lot about Oklahoma State and Oklahoma State transfers in the last few weeks, even months on the show.
They've been doing work in the portal.
They have been doing work. And it looks like they may wind up with OU offer Dejon Ackerson out there at Putnam City High School.
Really?
He dropped a Final 3 today. It's Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Tulsa. So they're doing a really good. It's nice to see Oklahoma State taking recruiting seriously within their own state lines, because for so many years they did not. But they got Caden Jones. They got Trey McLaughlin. Got an offensive lineman that I really, really like, and Aiden Martin from the Tulsa area.
Yeah.
Now they're right there in the thick of it at battling Kansas State for Dejon Ackerson. We'll see.
I mean, they recruited Texas more intently than they recruited Oklahoma.
Now, the reason we're on the topic of Oklahoma State is because the University of Oklahoma, the Sooners of Norman, they have a former Oklahoma State Cowboy on campus today. Now, he will not be listed or regarded by reporters as an Oklahoma State transfer because he is coming to Oklahoma, or I guess would be coming to Oklahoma by way of Utah State. But defensive lineman Ricky Lolohea is on campus today with Oklahoma. He originally signed out of high school with Oklahoma State in the 2023 recruiting class, spent a year there, redshirted, transferred out to Utah State, where he would have played for head coach
Nate Dreiling.
Bingo! Well done. Nate Dreiling would have been Ricky Lolohea's head coach this past year at Utah State. We did a little bit of background research on Lolohea. Grayson came in earlier. He said ESPN doesn't have any stats listed for this guy. Apparently, ESPN just doesn't care about Utah State, because we then navigated to his bio at Utah State's official athletics website. Evidently, he played in 8 games, recorded 10 tackles for the Aggies. So this is, should it come to pass, Grayson, a depth guy, and really nothing more.
Exactly.
This is the guy that you take to battle it out with Marcus Strong and Trent Wilson for the right to be Oklahoma's 5th option at defensive tackle. Now, I will say this. The guy that was expected on campus today and is now visiting Vanderbilt instead of Oklahoma is Southeast Missouri State transfer Jalen Stone. Evidently, there's only room for one Stone in this town. But that was the guy that you felt like, okay, if David Stone is actually going to leave, you kind of got to have Jalen Stone. That's the guy you got to go and grab, because now you need somebody who's going to be able to crack the rotation and make plays. At this point, though, and that's kind of why Oklahoma and Jalen Stone are going different directions. Their paths are diverging from one another. It's just because he's going to get paid a decent amount of money. Oklahoma's got to be frugal with the money that they have left to spend in this spring portal cycle, and they're no longer in a position now that David Stone is coming back to really unload on another defensive lineman. Nor do they need to.
And not only do they not need to, nor should you for a 5th defensive tackle. Like, no, there's no reason for that.
I think that fifth defensive tackle, and I don't want to sleep on Marcus Strong. I don't want to disregard Marcus Strong. He's a guy that, by all accounts, has made some real strides since getting to Oklahoma as the penultimate member of that 2023 class. He was an early signing day addition who never publicly announced his commitment. He just signed. The only guy that came after him in the 2023 class would have been Taylor Heim, who didn't come along until the February signing day, or just before the February signing day. But Marcus Strong's made some real strides since he got to Oklahoma. The guy I think might wind up being that fifth defensive tackle, though, is Trent Wilson. I really, really like Trent Wilson. It's hard not to like Trent Wilson.
He's massive.
He's an enormous human being. One of the most developed upper bodies that I have ever seen from a high school football prospect. The dude's got Christmas hams for biceps. He was also a top 100 prospect in the 2025 class, so he's not just big, he can play. I think you may see him at some point for Oklahoma in 2025. So that's the situation. Ricky Lolohea is on campus with Oklahoma, as is another tight end, Grayson. Lance Mason from Missouri State. Did you get the chance to dig into Lance Mason at all? He's a native of Rockwall, Texas.
He is.
So there you go.
Right down the street from where I'm from. He can run. He can run for a tight end. Now, he will come in and automatically be the best receiving threat at tight end for this team.
I'm probably with you on that.
Which isn't saying much, but it will check a box. They need a guy who can be a big body. He's 6'4", 240 at the tight end and be an impact of the passing game. So, look, is he gonna blow anybody away? No. Is he a fine addition? Yeah. What you don't want is to add a seventh tight end and him just be one of the guys with Kanik and Helms and McIntyre and the other guys that you have in there. So, look, as long as you don't have to overpay for him, he would be a fine addition. And that's where I feel on this one. The tight end thing, at this point, is of mercurial interest because it's not going to be something that is going to make a bunch of highlight reels this year.
A nice adjective there. I appreciate the use of the word mercurial.
You're not the only one on this show with a vocabulary.
Clearly. Well done.
Mine's not as deep as yours.
Now, I agree. Lance Mason, he shows up. He's going to be in the mix for tight end one. He's going to be in the mix to start immediately because he is a really good pass catcher, runs well, and that's what you feel like you need. Because the bar is low right now in that tight end room. The bar is low, and you hope somebody can clear that bar. You hope Caden Helms is finally past all of the injury worries and is ready to take that next step. You hope the same is true for Cade McIntyre. You hope this experiment works out with Jaren Kanik. You hope Carson Kent or Will Huggins is ready to step in and take their game to another level. Kent rising from, well, I guess Kennesaw State is technically FBS now after transitioning from FCS not too long ago, but he's jumping up a level of competition. Will Huggins jumping up a level of competition from D2 Pittsburgh State. You hope all of those things are true, or some of those things are true with the members of this tight end room, but can't count on it. And so if nothing else, Lance Mason is a guy that has produced at the FCS level 590 yards, 6 touchdowns last year at Missouri State, and you feel like he's going to give you something. Is he going to be all SEC? Probably not. Do you need your tight end to be all SEC, though? No, I don't feel like you do. I don't feel like Oklahoma is going to heavily lean on the tight end. Don't feel as though, let's say Lance Mason were to commit to Oklahoma and break camp as your starting tight end. He's not going to be asked to catch 60 passes this year. What he's going to be asked to do is block reliably and go get open when the situation calls for it. And as long as you can do those two things, that's probably all Ben Arbuckle is going to request of his tight end, because I feel like I go back to it a lot, but he said it with his own lips, and so you've heard it from the horse's mouth with Ben Arbuckle. He said the day that he signed the contract with the University of Oklahoma that the personnel is going to dictate the scheme. He will tailor his scheme to the personnel that he has at his disposal. And so if he's got a great tight end, a great tight end's going to get the ball. If he's got a bunch of modest tight ends, well, probably not leaning on the position group as heavily. Tyson from Stigler on the text line wants to know, where are we with the BYU receiver? Yes, Keelan Marion. Keelan Marion. Good receiver, tremendous returner. That's honestly of more intrigue to me than his receiving ability.
Fair.
The second I saw Oklahoma was recruiting Keelan Marion, it's like, oh, okay. You got somebody with legit juice in the return game. How long has it been since Oklahoma had one of those?
Been a minute.
If you want to make the case for Gavin Freeman, okay. But save for Gavin Freeman's punt return touchdown against Arkansas State in the 2023 season opener. Do you know how long it's been, for instance, Grayson, since Oklahoma had a kick return touchdown, which Keelan Marion had 2 of last year?
Right. He made a dent against Oklahoma State last year, too. I remember that.
This is a fun trivia question.
2017?
You got to go back even further than that.
Oh, Lord. 2011.
Not quite that far.
Okay, 2015.
I'll give you the answer. It was in the 2016 non-conference showdown between Oklahoma and Ohio State, where the Buckeyes came to Norman and won 45-24. Noah Brown went off that night, caught 4 touchdown passes. Who did he go up top of? Was it Micaiah Quick that he just took to school all night long? I think it was Micaiah Quick. Anyway, Joe Mixon returned a kick for a touchdown that night. That actually should have been overturned upon replay review if they had bothered to review it because he dropped the ball short of the goal line.
Oh, great. One of those.
That is the last time. I was in high school at the time, Grayson. That is the last time Oklahoma had a kick return touchdown.
I didn't even have my driver's license.
The year 2016. Joe Mixon.
No punt return touchdown since then.
Well, that's kick return.
Oh, kick return. Oh, kick return. Okay, got you.
Yeah, punt return. Prior to Gavin Freeman's return against Arkansas State in 2023, it was D.D. Westbrook against Kansas that very same year.
That's what I thought. I thought D.D. Westbrook ran one back.
Yep. CeeDee Lamb ran one back against Kansas in 2019, but it got called back due to a penalty. I do recall that.
Santa John on the text line. We need a kicker more than we need a tight end. Please find us a kicker.
Okay, well, I'll leave you on a little cliffhanger here, Santa John. Let's hit a timeout because we're due for one. Let's talk about the kicker situation coming up next. Can Oklahoma find additional depth and competition for their starting kicker role? That and much more to come here on The Ref. You're listening to Locked In. Keep it right here.
Do you eat, sleep, and breathe Sooner football? We do too. This is The Ref, home of Sooner fans.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
What's up, Ref Army? It's Dusty Dvorak. Do you eat, sleep, and breathe football? KREF is the only place for the most comprehensive daily analysis of Sooner and college football. Catch me every Tuesday and Wednesday during the 10 a.m. hour of The Plank Show as I cut it up with Plank and Josh about everything in the world of Sooner and college football. That's every Tuesday and Wednesday on The Plank Show, and there's only one place to hear it. The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Download the KRF app today to listen from anywhere.
Does your business need a trusted electrical advisor to help with repairs, maintenance, service changes, or upgrades? Don't just trust anyone. Choose Wade Electric, a family-owned company with over 50 years of experience. Wade Electric has an extensive portfolio of completed projects in new construction, remodels, and service. We specialize in a variety of electrical installations like accent lighting and automation, landscape and security lighting, shop and outbuilding wiring, and more. Call Wade Electric today at 405-329-1940 for all your electrical needs.
Belmar Golf Club offers a whole new world of recreation and excitement. Our Junior Olympic-sized swimming pool offers a family-friendly atmosphere with poolside food and beverages perfect for all types of summer pool parties. In addition to the best golf course in Oklahoma, Belmar is also a great place to hold corporate and fundraising events, as well as magnificent and memorable wedding ceremonies. Call 405-364-0111 or stop by 1025 East Indian Hills Road and check out our first-class facilities and exceptional service.
No matter what a strong future looks like to you, you can start building it with a home equity line of credit from Armstrong Bank. There's no time like the present to take advantage of your home equity. From home renovations to wedding expenses, vacations to new cars, the future is yours with a HELOC from Armstrong Bank. Visit armstrong.bank/HELOC to get started. Armstrong Bank. Strength runs in our family. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
People are always looking to invest in a good opportunity. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change called Better Futures. With your investment, it helps students like me go to college. My name is Charles, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Thanks to generous community support, Wounded Warrior Project has helped post-9/11 veterans and their families since 2003. Through no-cost physical and mental health services, legislative advocacy, career assistance, and life skill training, we're there every step of the journey.
It's possible to feel understood.
To get support when it's needed most.
And now I know anything is possible.
And we're just getting started. Learn more at woundedwarriorproject.org/possible.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Oh, man. This is just sad, and I mean this very sincerely. This is just sad. I'm sure many of you saw Justin Blackmon's mugshot surface on Twitter yesterday. I guess he was arrested over the weekend in Ardmore for public intoxication. I tell you, man, there are very few football players that I've ever seen that were as fun to watch as Justin Blackmon, both at Oklahoma State and with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Agreed.
Man, it is never fun to see a guy like that, especially somebody with such talent, just see their life go off the rails. And that's what's happened for Justin Blackmon. Spent 2 years in the NFL before a litany of issues with marijuana and alcohol, as I recall, wound up getting him sent on his way by the Jaguars and never surfaced again in the National Football League. Time has not been kind to him. So,
and he looks terrible too, man.
He does, man. Again, just genuinely, sincerely, very sad to see that happening for a guy. So, I hope Justin Blackmon is able to get some help, man, because that's a human being, tremendous football player certainly, but also a human being that just has clearly been battling some demons for a long, long, long time. Speaking of a guy that has, well, and this is not nearly akin to the situation there, but Micah Hudson has had to fight through some issues this spring. The extent of those issues, it's still kind of clouded, still kind of unclear, but there have been some rumblings, some tremors as to what ultimately led him to depart from the Texas A&M football program and get back in the transfer portal. I don't think at any point he was participating in team activities with the Aggies. He just kind of showed up and was in class for a little while, but by the time spring practice rolled around, it was already evident that he was getting back in the portal and that he was never going to touch the field in College Station. If friends of the program, Steve Wiltfong and Pete Nakos, are to be believed, he's going to be transferring back to Texas Tech. So, pretty predictable outcome there. There had been rumors really ever since the report came out that he was not participating in football activities at A&M, that he would be going back to Tech. So I know he visited Utah last week. There are other schools that have been in the mix, but looks like he's going to go back to Tech. Hopefully it works out for Micah Hudson because, again, that's a guy that has all the talent in the world, but he's got to keep this thing on track if he's going to get the opportunity to go get paid and be a star at the next level. And he's got to prove it at the college level first, too, because he did a little bit in his freshman year at Tech, but not a whole lot. I realized as we went into break last segment, Grayson, that I never brought the thought full circle on Keelan Marion, or never brought the conversation full circle. To the best of my knowledge, new intel as of last night, I do believe, on that whole situation, Oklahoma's not in the market for Keelan Marion any longer because, as I mentioned, they have to be frugal with the money that they have remaining in their portal budget after unloading for Jaden Ott and Jake Michaela. Wide receiver is not high on the priority list. It is a position where Oklahoma would like to add a guy, but it's not an A1 priority. The A1 priority right now is tight end. Then as you go down the pecking order, kicker certainly comes into play. We'll talk about that in just a second. Then you're looking at probably cornerback and then receiver. So Oklahoma would like to add another receiver. To that point and to that effect, I would continue to monitor the situation with Keon Brown. That is worth keeping an eye on. Trajan Bridges, not happening. What I was told on Keon Brown, end of last week, probably not happening, but OU's going to keep trying to make something happen there, especially if they can make something work at a reasonable price point. Because if that's the type of dude that you can land with some major bang for your buck, it's worth the risk. And let's be honest, taking a guy with Keon Brown does carry a little bit of risk at this point, but it's a reunion that Oklahoma would like to be able to make with the kid. Now, to the kicker situation, Grayson. Mason Shipley's off the market.
Yep.
Visited Oklahoma last Thursday, signed with Texas on Friday. The best available option in the transfer portal went to the University of Texas. You don't love to see that if you're a Sooner fan, because odds are when the time comes to square off with the Longhorns in the Cotton Bowl this October, that's going to be one less problem that Texas has to sweat, is having a kicker that can put the ball through the uprights. Mason Shipley's really freaking good at that. Looking at the options right now for Oklahoma, the guys that are available in the portal at kicker, I suppose the two names that are most worth watching right now, one that I mentioned previously last week, Isaiah Hankins, transfer from Baylor, and then Cade Hensley of Coastal Carolina. That's a guy that is on the radar. The priority, as far as I'm aware, is Hankins, but Cade Hensley, the transfer from Coastal Carolina, that's worth monitoring as well. All in all, though, Grayson, and we talked about it last Thursday, Mason Shipley was the guy that you felt like, okay, you land him, you don't have to worry about kicker at all.
Right.
Whoever you land at this point, be it Hankins or Hensley or whoever it may end up being, still going to have to worry about kicker.
And that begs the question then, is it even worth it? Are you upgrading from two dudes you already have to worry about with Austin Welsh and a guy in Liam Evans who probably isn't ready yet, but if he's forced to play, is he much worse? Because at this point, you're talking about spending extra dollars. Now, it's not exorbitant amounts of dollars, but it's still more money you have to commit to somebody who we have no idea is any better than the dude who was kicking things just all over the place in front of 5,000 fans. So that's the road you're going down. And quite frankly, this don't look good for the regular season. It does not, because We talked about this last week. How many SEC games come down to have something having to do with a kicker? It may not be in the last minute. It may not be in the last 10 seconds. But in most games, there is something you can trace back to in the SEC that has to do with special teams. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you're still playing this game with fire of whether or not your kicker's going to be able to put it through the uprights is very concerning.
Now, is it worth it? Yes, I think it's worth it. Because you give yourself one more option. And one more option could loom very large at a certain point. Because let's just say, for the sake of the hypothetical, that come the fall, you're dealing with what you were dealing with this past year with Zach Schmidt and Tyler Keltner. Only this time around, it's Liam Evans and Austin Welch. Liam Evans was redshirting last year, and everybody knew it. Tyler Keltner and Zach Schmidt, neither are what you would have called reliable. And so every time either one of those guys walked out for a field goal attempt, whether it was one or the other, you were uneasy. You were uneasy.
Yeah.
Didn't matter how short or how long the attempt was, you were uneasy. If that winds up being the case for Oklahoma in 2025 with these two guys, Liam Evans and Austin Welch, that are in competition right now for the gig, you'd like to have a third option, right? So
I guess.
It's going to be very, very cheap. I mean, kickers are cheap. You don't have to pay kickers much of anything. So, yes, I think it's worth it. Now, does the guy that they bring in immediately wind up slotting in as the starter? That's to be determined. You could have made that judgment with Mason Shipley. Mason Shipley comes in, he's absolutely your starting kicker. The rest of the guys that are out there, I mean, it's probably the case. Probably the case with Hankins and Cade Hensley. You don't know it for sure, though.
Tyson from Stigler. What about Burt Dam Auburn? Would love to beat Texas with him.
Well,
I mean,
and
Oklahoma could do the funniest thing.
They actually couldn't, because that's where the SEC's interconference transfer rule comes into play. I know. I had the same thought. On Thursday, or I guess Friday, when I found out that Mason Shipley was transferring to Texas. It would be the funniest thing possible, but it can't happen, because if you transfer within the SEC, you got to sit out a year. So they can't go get Burt Auburn. They got to go get somebody from outside the SEC. J-Dub asked, has Burt Auburn landed anywhere yet? No, he has not.
No.
K-Dub the 918 says, oh boy, all valid points, but I'm not worried about kicker. We haven't had one be able to make a clutch kick since the days of Uwe von Schamann. Okay, K-Dub, but wouldn't you like to have a guy that could make a clutch kick?
I mean, at least try.
If indeed it has been 50 years since Oklahoma had a kicker that could make a clutch kick, and I would dispute that notion. I think Tim Lasher was more than capable of making clutch kicks, and he did on occasion. Tim Duncan made clutch kicks at Oklahoma. Garrett Hartley made clutch kicks at Oklahoma.
I'm sorry, who? Tim Duncan?
Not that Tim Duncan.
There's another one?
Yes. The kicker on Oklahoma's 2000 national championship team was named Tim Duncan.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Spelled the same and everything.
I mean, I would imagine.
More recently, Gabe Burkich in 2019. Pre-burrito Gabe Burkich.
I was about to say, Burkich was solid.
Dynamite. Again, 69 for 69 in 2019 as a redshirt freshman. 54 extra point attempts without a miss, 15 field goal attempts without a miss.
And Garrett Hartley, like you mentioned, is a Super Bowl champion. Did he not kick for New Orleans during that Super Bowl year?
He did kick for New Orleans. He made
2009.
Made the field goal in overtime to walk off Minnesota. Brett Favre and Adrian Peterson and the Vikings. Yes. Glenn from Nashville asked, then how can Jackson Arnold be the starting quarterback at Auburn if you have to sit out a year? Well, okay, this is only for the spring window. Only for the spring window. If you transfer in the winter, then you can transfer within the SEC and be immediately eligible. Not in the spring, though. And I imagine, right, the reason for that is that if you're going through spring practices with one SEC team, and you learn the playbook and all of their signs and signals and everything, then it's you put them at a competitive disadvantage if you get in the transfer portal and transfer to one of the schools that they're going to see on the schedule in conference play in 2025. So I'd imagine among other reasons that rule was instituted to curtail that kind of thing. But it's less of an issue if you're transferring in the true off-season, right, in December or January. Zach from Clinton says, Tim Duncan is from Clinton. Go Red Tornadoes. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. And Glenn from Nashville, I reiterate my previous text on Liam Evans. How can he not be ready? You can either kick or you can't.
Okay, well, I would love it if it were that simple, Glenn from Nashville.
Clearly, but it is not.
No, it never is. I mean, I can hear and visualize the same text pertaining to Jackson Arnold in advance of the 2024 season. Well, how could he not be ready to start at Oklahoma? Either you can throw or you can't. There's a lot more to it than that. Kicking is highly mental. Highly mental. As anybody who has done it, especially at that high of a level, will attest to. All right, folks, we're done here on Locked In. It's a wrap. After an hour here with you, brought to you by Dorsey Jones Buick GMC out in El Reno. For Grayson Singleton, I'm Parker Thune. Come on back with us, same time, same place tomorrow. Until then, enjoy your drive home with Teddy Lehman and Tyler McComas. The Rush kicks off next here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.